All right, so the tax season is now officially open, but with the closure of all SARS offices, branches will not be dealing with tax issues in person. Of course, the e-filing system is accessible, but if you want to file in person, you will only be able to do so at a branch from around mid-August, possibly earlier. The closure of offices is the least of SARS worries when it comes to the impact of the pandemic. A shrinking tax base worsened by COVID job losses likely to dent the tax authority's bottom line further. Let's discuss this now with Sars Commissioner Edward Kieswetter. Good evening, Mr. Kieswetter. Thank you so much for joining us this Friday evening. So, SARS collected 1.25 trillion in taxes in the year ending 2021, March 31, 12% less than you'd hoped. It did tick up a little towards the end of the year. Is it inevitable that your targets are going to shrink again?
Well, first of all, we don't have targets, we have estimates, Sally, and these estimates are really modeled on what we project the growth of the economy to be. So they have underlying assumptions, and understandably, when those assumptions change, the outcomes will change. And that was what we saw last year. But at the same time, we have also, and very encouragingly, we've seen some upward buoyancy in the economy, albeit off a low base. We saw that from towards the end of last year, and that continues. So in the first quarter of this year, for example, all the predictions by the economists was that the growth would be around about 3.2%. In fact, the economy quarter on quarter, as reported by Stats SA, was 4.6%. Secondly, we also have begun to really gain more momentum in terms of our compliance program. That's the work that SARS does in order to ensure that the revenue that is due and that is not voluntarily received by SARS, that we actually go out and we fetch that revenue. We've seen that produced the above estimation outcome at the end of last year of some 38 billion. And we already are seeing in the first quarter that that work is gaining momentum. And so we also have a outcome which is slightly more positive than what the minister had estimated.
Yeah, so I understand, of course, those are, you know, as the tax authority becomes more efficient and perhaps gains back some of the efficiency of past that was undermined during a certain period, you get better and better at collecting the taxes. I want to take you back to the estimates. As you say, these are estimates. So what are you estimating about the coming year in terms of tax collection? And have you factored in the news of level 4 into that estimate already, bearing in mind we've heard Sun International is closing its doors, the airlines are shutting up shop for at least 3 weeks, and that of course is going to affect your tax collection?
So actually we only estimate twice a year. So the initial estimate for this particular fiscal year has been set by the minister in February of the prior year. Then the next estimate will be in October when the minister makes his medium-term budget policy statement announcement. And then that will be the first revision, if a revision is necessary. And then the second one will be in February of 2022, again, if a revision is considered to be necessary. However, what we do is we simply announce, we report as we collect and reconcile on a monthly basis, we announce the outcome against the estimate for that month. And therefore, we do not engage in a reprojection or a rebudgeting exercise. We simply report against what was in the estimate.
So are you...
And what I am saying is already there is, because of a combination of slight buoyancy, specifically in the mining and financial services sector. We also have to balance that against some economic slowdown, some job losses, business closures. A big casualty to date is the hospitality sector. And so we balance the the swings and the roundabouts. But the consistent effort by SARS is to focus on our compliance revenue. Last year we reported a almost 33% increase year on year on revenue from compliance activity. That is the effort that we will hope will be able to maintain the positive trend that we will report for the first quarter.
I think, it might be a fair analogy. You inherited a SARS that was out of ICU, but still not fully back on its feet after years of corruption and mismanagement, according to the Nugent Commission report. Is SARS fully fixed, fully well?
This is not a weekend exercise, Sally. However, the task of rebuilding SARS is gaining progressive momentum, and it starts by, often, and I've said this before, the hardware, the technology and the infrastructure is actually the easiest part to fix, given that you have the financial resources to do so. The harder fix are the soft stuff, the hearts and the minds of people getting a professionalism and an integrity throughout a culture of a higher purpose and solid work ethic. And that starts at the leadership. And so we have focused over the last 2 years to recalibrate what the leadership behavior is. We have developed among ourselves a new leadership model, and that serves as the benchmark against which we will recruit, develop, and performance manage every single leader within SARS, because that begins to set the tone for what is expected throughout the organization. And so that work it's not a linear work, it's iterative, it's cumulative, it is organic, and it is deeply addressing the soul of the organization. That's the hard work. But if that work is achieved, that's also what brings about the sustainable defense against future attempts to undermine and erode the integrity of the institution.
It's such an important point. And I would imagine, though, that technology also plays an emotional role for the staff, because as your systems function well, as your technology gets better at helping to clamp down on those trying to dodge tax, as you get those wins, so morale probably improves at the tax authority. But I want to speak to you about your customers, the people who have to give you their hard-earned tax rands. And a lot of us feel we have no problem giving to the tax collector if we know it's being used well. We see the poverty. We see so many people who are not fortunate enough to have jobs. And if our money is used well, then it's okay. Do you find that taxpayers are getting more and more disillusioned because of all the state capture, because of all the corruption, that people are starting to dodge more and more giving what is due?
Sally, that point cannot be overstated. That confidence, not just in SARS, SARS is a microcosm of government and a microcosm of the society. And so if we begin to see whole-scale and widespread corruption, if we see inefficiencies, if people do not receive services at local government level, they begin to feel morally justified to withhold or fiddle with their taxes. And we have seen that breakdown over the last decade throughout government, not just in SARS. And SARS obviously have been a central casualty in this regard, your ICU analogy. However, it's not a flip of a switch. So there is a compounding effect in small and continuous effort by government, including SARS, to begin to regain the confidence of the public. So everything that happens, whether it is a pronouncement by the court, whether it is a decision by the president or by cabinet or by government, or whether it is the response by SARS, begins to reverse that trend. Interestingly, last year we did a perception survey on tax morality, and it is encouraging that there is an upward trend in tax morality. Our work is now to convert that because that's an emotional feeling. Our work is to convert that and to secure an improvement in compliance. We are beginning to see that with large business, with international business. We have also using the enabling environment of data and technology, and we can deep dive that if you have time. But suffice it to say, using a better enabling environment, which is the interplay between people, technology, and data science, we're able, on the one hand, to improve the integrity of the outcomes and builds more confidence. For example, 3 million taxpayers will receive an auto-assessed outcome, which is really a seamless engagement. In other words, you fulfill your obligations by doing nothing, just confirming the work we've already done. But the same technology and enabling environment has also enabled us, for example, to detect attacks on our refund system. Just within income tax last year, we were able to prevent the outflow of 5 billion rand of attempts on the refund system. In total, we prevented 57 billion of rands to flow out. We've also been able to identify over 26,000 individual taxpayers who, from the data we have economic activities in excess of R1 million, but they are not registered for tax. We also have exchange of information from over 100 jurisdictions, and from that we have been able to detect South Africans who have financial assets offshore, and we are starting to work through that. The first 1,500 taxpayers have already been directed to our newly created High Wealth Unit, and the first 257 of them have received letters from us, and we're beginning that engagement. So I think it is work like that that begins to restore confidence, and slowly you will have a compound effect of confidence being restored. There must be an excellent service that is professional, that is beyond reproach, but there must also be a credible threat of detection, and the public want to see that those who break the law are brought to book.
Absolutely right, and thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. That was Sars Commissioner Edward Kieswetter there.